Chile is a South American country occupying a long, narrow strip of land between the Andes Mountains to the east and the Pacific Ocean to the west. Chile is today one of South America's most stable and prosperous nations. It leads Latin American nations in rankings of human development, competitiveness, income per capita, and low perception of corruption. The 1973 Chilean coup d'etat was an important event in both the Cold War and the history of Chile. Following an extended period of social and political unrest between the conservative-dominated Congress of Chile and the socialist President Salvador Allende, as well as economic warfare ordered by the U.S. President Richard Nixon, Allende was overthrown by the armed forces and national police. The military abolished the civilian government and established a junta that brutally repressed left-wing political activity both domestically and abroad. Allende's army chief, Augusto Pinochet, rose to supreme power within a year of the coup, formally assuming power in late 1974. The U.S. government, which had worked to create the conditions for the coup, promptly recognized the junta government and supported it in consolidating power. During the air raids and ground attacks that preceded the coup, Allende gave his last speech, in which he vowed to stay at the presidential palace and denouncing offers for safe passage should he choose exile over confrontation. Direct witness accounts of Allende's death agree that he committed suicide in the palace. After General Pinochet lost the election in 1988, the Rettig Commission, a multi-partisan truth commission, in 1991 reported the location of torture and detention centers, among others, Esmeralda Ship and Victor Jara Stadium. Later, in November 2004, the Valle report confirmed that the number as less than 3,000 killed and reduced the number of cases of forced disappearance, but some 28,000 people were arrested, imprisoned, and tortured. The government gradually permitted greater freedom of assembly, speech, and association, to include trade union and political activity.
Ariel Dorfman was born May 6, 1942, in the capital of Argentina, Buenos Aires. Following his birth, his family moved twice, first to the United States and then in 1954 to Chile. He matriculated from the University of Chile and married Angelica Malinerich, which granted him Chilean citizenship. From 1968 to 1969, he attended graduate school at the University of California at Berkeley, and then promptly returned to Chile. Upon return, he started working as Presidente Salvador Allende's cultural advisor. During this time, he wrote How to Read Donald Duck with Armand Metalart, which was a critique of North American cultural imperialism. During his work as cultural advisor, there was a coup led by General Pinochet against President Salvador Allende. After the Pinochet coup, Ariel Dorfman was forced into exile in 1973 and lived in several different places such as Paris, Amsterdam, and Washington, D.C. In this time, Presidente Salvador Allende had committed suicide. When democracy was restored to Chile in 1990, Dorfman and his wife moved back, splitting their time between the United States and Santiago, Chile. Apart from being a Chilean-Argentine novelist and playwright, Ariel Dorfman is also known as a human rights activist. The fall of the Chilean government deeply affected Ariel Dorfman's life. In response to the atrocities that were committed by General Allende's army, Dorfman started writing a novel titled Death the Maiden. He wanted to paint a picture of what a recovering Chile would look like after its dictator was removed from power. However, he grew frustrated and was unable to finish the novel. Then the Rettig Commission was formed, a truth commission set up by the new Chilean president, Patricio Aylwin. The formation of his truth commission is what helped Dorfman finally understand what his story had to do. He transformed the novel into a play and injected the Truth Commission into his story. When his play was complete, feelings of concern washed over him. He knew the public might be angry, because he was essentially ripping a scab off a fresh wound. Yet he knew it was important to try and infuse questions that many Chileans were asking themselves privately. These questions were important because no one seemed to be talking about them publicly, and he knew that it was a major step into the direction needed for healing the country.
I'm the leader of the Truth Commission. Don't worry about my name now. We investigated deaths and disappearances under Pinochet's rule. We released the report in 1991. The National Commission on Political Imprisonment and Torture also investigated human rights abuses from Pinochet, but that will come later. Released in 2004 and 2005, the Commission differed from ours in that investigated non-fatal violations of human rights such as torture, and also covered children whose parents had disappeared or been killed. The report of this commission was used by the government to give out pensions and other benefits to survivors.
Dr. Miranda,
What the fuck?
so the only thing left now is to kill you, Roberto.
Well, you gave Gerardo your word. Why would you go back on it?
What, Roberto? Did you think that everything would be okay? When the Chilean people were being stripped of their freedoms, being tortured to death because they refused to succumb to the new regime, was everything okay? Did the people just turn the other cheek to what happened to them?
But it's not 1973.
The people of Chile were taken to these concentration camps, where they were tortured, beaten when trying to console their family members, and whipped when they would ask for food. What is it that you did to me? Do you feel as though the other cheek needs to be turned?
Polly, can you please stop pointing the gun in my direction?
The Truth Commission is important to the Chilean people because it provides closure to the families affected by the Pinochet regime. The point was to establish as complete a picture as possible of human rights violations under the Pinochet regime, gather evidence to allow for victims to be identified, recommend reparations, and to recommend legal and administrative measures to prevent a repetition of past abuses. Specifically, it investigated disappearance after arrest, executions, and torture leading to death committed by government agents and people in their service, as well as kidnappings and murder attempts carried out by private citizens for political reasons. The Commission made a nationally televised address introducing the report and apologized on behalf of society to victims. The report called on the state and all of society to acknowledge and accept responsibility for past crimes and offer moral and material reparations meant to restore the dignity of victims. Death the Maiden shows the effect of crimes previously committed and is an example of how the Truth Commission did not prosecute those found guilty, still leaving some unsatisfied.